Hi, my name is MaryJane Mudd. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Houston. You know, the Houston PetSet would like to welcome everybody to this program because we're going to have the opportunity to speak to some of our candidates who are running and learn from them what they think about animal welfare. You know, it's important that we go into the polls on November 3rd, really understanding who we're voting for, what they think, and what it means to us. And I am honored to have the opportunity today to interview our candidates about animal welfare for Houston PetSet. To that end, we're about to interview Constable Ted Heap. And I would like to ask you, Ted, what you would like to say about yourself before we get into the specific questions for you today.
Surely. Well, first of all, thank you, Mary Jane. I appreciate the opportunity to speak not only to you, but to all of the viewers and listeners that are associated with Houston PetSet. A little about me. I am currently the Constable of Harris County Precinct 5, which is pretty much the west side of Harris County, about 1.2 million people and about 320 or so square miles of Harris County, both unincorporated Harris County as well as the city of Houston. I've been in law enforcement for 36 years. I started with Harris County when I was a 21-year-old young man. I'm not quite the same anymore as far as age and stuff, but I have worked in the constable's office at every rank, have been on every shift, worked my way up through the constable's office, and the people of Harris County Precinct 5 elected me in 2016 to be their constable, and I am running again for constable. I grew up in Harris County. I'm married to my wife of Jennifer for 37 years, have two wonderful sons, and expecting a third grandchild very shortly. And this is all I know. I'm a cop's cop rather than a politician, but unfortunately we have to run for office in this position. But, you know, so that's a little bit about me and about who I am in my law enforcement career. And I'm assuming, and I'm sure that I'll have some opportunity to talk about my passion for animals and what I'm doing as far as that goes later in the conversation.
Thank you so much. And so let's go to the first question. And as you know, you've got a couple minutes to answer each question. So question number one, please define Houston's homeless animal issue as you understand it.
Well, I understand it from a very personal perspective. I see this all of the time, not only as a law enforcement officer, but as I said, as a member of the community. I guess that I would sum it up, Houston's problem, as a crisis. Until you're actually out there, until you see what's happening with the abandons, the strays, the cruelty, the neglect, you don't really get a full perspective of Houston's animal problem that we have. Just ask anybody who is doing transports, ask anybody with the sheltering side of it, ask anybody who's trying to be able to feed and vet these animals and stuff. We have a crisis. We have a big crisis. And the crisis is not only legislative as far as changing laws, it's not only enforcement, which is obviously what I'm involved in, but it's also about awareness and it's about education. So all of these things have to go together. For us to be able to enforce and arrest people who are committing crimes against animals is one thing, but it's not going to solve the problem. We have to be able to address this in a very holistic way. And that's why it's so important that we're talking to our kids in school, we're educating the community, and we're such a diverse community. In Harris County and Houston area, we're very diverse, which means that we have to be very sensitive and cognizant of other people's cultures, of other people's understandings of, or lack of understanding sometimes of what the laws are. So it really has to be a holistic approach, but we definitely have a problem that needs to be addressed. Can we do it overnight? Absolutely not. But with different groups and the way that we approach things, that we can surely be going in the right direction and make a difference to the animals here in Harris County.
Thank you. And you know, adding to that, the next question is, what work have you personally or have professionally accomplished to support the quality of life for our area's companion animals?
Well, back in as far as law enforcement goes, back in the early 2000s, I was entrusted with starting an animal cruelty division, which served all of Harris County. So we've taken something very new in the aspect of law enforcement. there were certain things, animal crimes, environmental crimes. These are not things that are taught to police officers in their academy. So it's something that we have to not only be able to work with and collaboratively, and sometimes even educate the district attorney's office, because we have to go hand in hand and to be able to fight these types of problems. But in the early 2000s, we started an animal cruelty unit. It was very effective. We worked a HGAC region of 13 counties surrounding Harris County to be able to deal with some of the dog fighting and some of these other issues that were coming up. Now in 2017, what we decided was that, we're still seeing a lot of the same problems. Were we making progress? Absolutely. Was it because of lack of effort? Absolutely not. But we realized that we're just spinning our wheels. And the problem, it really is, Mary Jane, that in a third largest county in the United States, we are dealing with some very unique challenges. We have over 60 law enforcement agencies in Harris County. Now, to somebody who is not doing this for a living, it's very confusing. Why? Because it's confusing to me. So you can imagine the people out there who live in Harris County who don't know who to call. They don't know what the jurisdictions and the boundary limit is and who has authority here and there. And we saw that this was actually transcribing down to our animal. In other words, people would see a crime going on, but who do you call? Do you call 911? Do you call HPD? Do you call the Sheriff's Department? Do you call the constables? Do you call the Houston Humane Society, SPCA? Whoever it is, they were confused on who to call. So in 2017, Houston PetSet and Crime Stoppers sat down together and put their heads together and came up with a brilliant idea of being able to start and formulate the Harris County Animal Cruelty Task Force. And with the task force, what the main objective was to find one place that anybody in the region could go and could call and be able to get the resources and get the help that they need. They brought myself in as the face of law enforcement. So I've started to kind of work as far as from the law enforcement side of it, but it's also in conjunction with the Harris County District Attorney's Office, the Houston Humane Society, PetSet, of course, and Crime Stoppers. There's rescue groups, there's vets that come in, Houston Northwest ER. There's a lot of them that are working together to be able to house, to transport, to vet, to prosecute, and to educate the public on this. This is
So Constable Heap, forgive me for the interruption, but I've just been notified that you've had 2 minutes. But here's the thing. The next question goes right into what you were just sharing. How would your office support the organizations that are working in the animal welfare arena? So you can continue that train of thought.
Well, I think that's exactly what the Animal Cruelty Task Force is doing. It is supporting not only through its leadership, but through its innovations and through its education. So I believe that what we're seeing right now is other surrounding counties trying to emulate and wanting to be part of this task force. This task force is the way of the future. So our support as far as what we're trying to accomplish, in my opinion, is through leadership. We are leading the way as far as what we're doing with the task force. Other people are seeing the success of it. I think it's going to be a model for not only other counties, but I think other states as a whole. And when we're together as a task force like this, the power of the private entities, the governmental entities, the law enforcement, district attorney's office, we have a lot more, shall I say, stroke or push when it comes to maybe talking to Austin as far as changing some of these laws that we have to address up in as far as some of our health and safety codes and such.
Okay, and you touched on this a little, but this gives you an opportunity to dig even deeper. What is your plan to address animal abuse, illegal dog fighting, and other animal-related criminal offenses? And it might be, from the organization you've created, but can you give us a little more information?
Well, my promise and my commitment that it has been since the early 2000s, and especially with the task force since 2017, is to not only continue, but to grow the involvement of law enforcement in the protection of animals. As I said, through the cruelty, then to go back to the abandonment, all of these are tools that we use, and we have to be able to teach the law enforcement officers. We have to teach the 5,000 that the Houston Police Department have out there, the 5,000 that Harris County has out there. We can't just have 2 or 3 people or 2 or 3 little units specializing in this. The commitment that I have made is to put my ability through my district units to be able to not only address it criminally, but also be able to educate. We teach classes to the Houston Police Department. We teach them also to the Sheriff's Department. When we can get this into the academies, then what we've done is we have a force multiplier. We have 10,000 eyes and ears out there to listen and to identify the problems with these animals rather than just a select few.
Well, then in that case, would you support a local ordinance that bans the sale of dogs from breeders and puppy mills in our area?
I would support that. You know, this is a lot of the problem that we deal with is being able to see these breeders, or as we say, these puppy mills. And then of course, the effect that it has on the community. They're not only being bred irresponsibly, but they're being sold irresponsibly. A lot of these animals end up on the streets. We end up, you know, having to address the puppy mill, but we're also addressing with everything downstream as far as it affects without the spay and the neuters being brought into place and stuff. It's just an ongoing and it's perpetual as far as trying to address the problem. So I would definitely be in favor of legislation to be able to address and put some boundaries on this.
Thank you. And we do have one last question, but I think you've been touching on this throughout. We'll give you a chance to talk about it a little more. This is the optional question. How would your office serve as an advocate for the animal welfare community?
Well, I think the animal welfare community is, they're vocal, they're very involved, they're very enthusiastic. What they need is they need governmental entities to understand and to be working in conjunction with them. I think having myself as an elected official, the head of probably the 3rd largest constable's office in the United States, saying that I am willing to be the face of the law enforcement aspect of this and to show how working together. So what I would do is what I've already done, and then we would just escalate it. We would take the power that we have here locally and bring it to Austin and say, this is what we need to do. You know, the 2021 legislative session will be starting before we know it. And we need to be working with THLN and other groups to be able to say, these are the changes that we need to make. So I think when you have a strong district attorney's office, a strong law enforcement face, and then you have the support of the nonprofits and the sheltering and the transport, I think we are a very, very strong and powerful entity that is hard to stop.
Thank you for your time today. We really appreciate what you have shared about the needs of animals in Houston.
Well, thank you, Mary Jane. And I just encourage everybody to be active in their community. This is a very important election. Election early voting starts on October 13th. So go out and, you know, execute your rights and vote. It goes through the 30th. And then, of course, Election Day is on November 3rd. So be a part of the community and let's make a difference in the world of these animals.
Thank you.